All right, next up we got Sue Huff, Alberta Party Candidate, and she's going to talk about creative politics.
Hello, my name is Sue Huff, and I'm here to talk about creative politics. Now, you might think that's an oxymoron, like non-profit banking, but I want to talk about how political structures, political thought, political speech, and political engagement could be improved with a little dash of creativity. Now, educators recognize creativity as one of the highest orders of thinking. Economists see creativity as the building block for new economies. And if you look at successful families and businesses and communities, they're all creative. In fact, it's in all of us to create. We're born that way. It's in our genes. So, if we want to impregnate politics with a little creativity, what are the conditions that it needs to grow? Well, I think there are 7. The first one is time. You need time to reflect and to dream. The second one is trust. You have to trust yourself and trust the people around you. Next, you need a culture of openness and playfulness. No bullies allowed. You need an emotional connection because creativity lives in your heart as much as it lives in your head. And you need to recognize that creativity is very fragile. It always involves risk. So ideally, you have a culture where it's okay to try things and it's okay to fail. Next, you need inclusivity and diversity, because diverse points of view and diverse ways of seeing stimulate new thoughts and new possibilities. So to summarize, creativity needs time, trust, openness, an emotional connection, an acceptance of risk, inclusion, and diversity. So how does politics fare meeting these conditions of creativity? Well, not much time, not much trust, not a lot of openness. Vulnerability is pounced upon and exploited. Emotion is seen as unstable, and risk, no. Inclusion and diversity, not so much. So I guess I would give politics a #fail. But what if politics was touched by creativity? How might that change our existing political structures and political thought and political speech? And more importantly, who might be attracted to politics if it became a creative space? Well, let's start by looking at our existing political structures. In the legislature, we have opposition and government MLAs seated 2 swords lengths apart. They're hunkered down behind their protective barriers, and the no man's land in between is never breached. Structures that are built on a warlike premise produce adversarial, us versus them, attitudes and behaviors. But what if there was no them? What if there was only us? Circles have been used for thousands of years to bring people together. In a circle, everyone is equal, everyone has a voice, and everyone is focused on the problem which is placed in the middle of the circle. Could different structures produce different ways of thinking? And what if political thought was inspired by our own brains, synapses, reaching, connected, flexible, adapting, and alive with possibilities? Contrast that to what we have now. Political thought which is two-dimensional, flat, scripted, predictable, kind of boring. Really a silly game where the ball is batted back and forth, not a whole lot of evidence of progress. And of course, dull thought leads to dull speech. Political speech is, by and large, vague, disingenuous, shallow, full of cliches and worn-out sound bites. The only emotion it seems to know is anger. Political speech seeks to divide, and it turns people off. Creative speech, on the other hand, is all about turning people on. It's about connections. Creative speech is witty and reverent and silly and delightful and surprising and full of metaphors. Creative speech tells us stories about who we are and where we're going. Creative speech can also be challenging, difficult, pointy, unsettling. It can tell us truths about ourselves that we'd rather not face. But creative speech brings those things to light so that we can face them, so we can learn from them, and so we can heal, and so we can get better. So what if we brought a tiny speck of creativity to politics? Either in creative structures, or creative thought, and creative speech? What difference would that make? Well, I think we might see more people flocking to politics. I think we might be able to reverse the current declining voter turnout rate, especially among young people, only 25% of whom vote. I think we might see a different kind of person stepping forward to serve. Who knows? Maybe even some of you might be inspired to pursue politics. And I think that diversity would weave a stronger fabric for our society. I think we'd see better discussions, better legislation for a better future. I think we'd see fewer politicians with oppositional defiance disorder. I think we would see more humanity in politics, more integrity, more humility. So, how do we get there? Well, I think it starts with each of us. Each of us has to stand up and say that 2D destructive politics no longer cuts it. I think we have to seek out and support the most creative thinkers in our community to be our representatives in government. And I think we have to remind them once they get there, once they're elected, that we expect them to continue to be creative on our behalf. Creative politics. Fun, smart, hopeful, and possible. Thank you. It's been an honor to be here.